So, for me, this is part of my own process of being unstuck. One of the things that I figured out is that nothing changes unless something changes. I lived a lot of my life feeling like I was a passenger in my life. And I got to the point where I realized that that's not the kind of life I want to live. And so being a leading voice for me is I want, if I could take people by the lapels and shake them and say, you don't have to live this way. It is so much better.
Welcome back, everybody. It's a Matter of Speaking podcast for leading voices in the industries of health, wealth, and relationships. What we do here is we interview folks that we've worked with at our company Leader, and we hear their stories, how they've got to where they're at, in hopes to, one, inspire and educate you, and two, maybe potentially motivate someone that's watching right now to share their message, share the mastery that they have in their head that they've been cultivating and get it out there. Because as we're going to hear from the person we spoke with today, sometimes we put a box on what we believe is possible for our life here. Today we speak with Ken Williams. A little bit about Ken. He's a seasoned leader with decades of experience in management, leadership, and community service, backed by an MBA and a passion for helping others thrive. He's a best-selling author of multiple books, including 21 Days to Success Through Networking and Stupid Goals Blueprint. Absolutely love that title. Ken knows how to inspire action and transformation. He has helped clients strengthen family relationships, embrace life transitions, and even launch bold entrepreneurial ventures. Known for his ability to ask thought-provoking questions, Ken challenges people to see their lives in fresh ways. We talk about that today. He's got a blend of humor about him. He's got insight. He's got actionable strategies that really help you transform what we call stuck into success. We talked today. It's an amazing podcast. We talked about, are we in the passenger seat or the driver's seat of our life? You're going to hear from the rip that he talks about. If you're in a place in your life that you're not happy with, nothing changes if nothing changes. And then he talks about no longer giving control to others and the steps we need to take to start taking control, giving ourselves a talk track, giving ourselves time to reflect, giving ourselves potentially an outlet so we have a mirror at looking at our lives through so we can make the proper changes. So we're going to dive into that in just a second. But before we do, it's important for you to know that this podcast is brought to you by Leader. Over 8 years, Leader has made it a mission to help coaching and consulting clients like Ken get their authentic message out into the world in hopes of reaching their desired audience through the power of speaking and business building. Over 700 clients have landed TEDx talks, and hundreds more speak on virtual and in-person stages around the world. They've mastered what it takes to have a talk that sticks with people, that people actually take next steps from. They're informed and they're also inspired to take action. On top of that, they also offer programs to build and scale your own high-ticket program and authentically market it to your desired audience so you can scale it effectively and also sustainably. You're not giving your energy away to grow something that you love. So if you like that stuff, if you would love a mirror at looking at your own business or your own message so you can get it out there properly, there is a link below in the bio for a free webinar you can watch. Taylor runs it. He's an incredible human being. Feel free to give that a click. And while you're down there, like, subscribe, and as you watch this, add a comment. What are the biggest questions that you have? But that's enough of me. Now let's pass it over to, me. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to It's a Matter of Speaking, a podcast for leading voices. Episode 40, the big 40. We are going to be speaking in the realm of wealth today, getting unstuck in your career and in your life. I am joined today by Ken Williams, who you have now heard about. Ken Williams, man, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you here, man. It's been a bit in the making. We've now met in person.
Yes.
We're considered friends. You've been
You
coming
would think
for.
so.
I would hope so. You've made me a cake. I've
Yes, I
now
have.
ate two of your
More than
cakes.
one.
Exactly. I was gonna say it's now been two. But man, welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm super happy to have you here. We're gonna be talking about a concept that I'm sure no one can relate to, or
Right.
unfortunately, getting stuck, feeling
Yeah.
stuck in career and in life. But
Something brand new.
first, it's crazy because it is somewhat new how you talk about it, but obviously it isn't new. Everyone goes through it, and that's what we're going to talk
Right.
about today. But I start these with the same question to everybody.
Mhm.
You are a leading voice for being stuck, being unstuck. I see your socials everywhere,
Right.
mostly TikTok. Obviously, you're on other social platforms as well, but you talk about this stuff daily,
Yeah.
which means that it's something that you care about. You're not just a voice, you want to be a leading voice. What does it mean to Ken Williams to be a leading voice?
So, for me, this is part of my own process of being unstuck. One of the things that I figured out is that nothing changes unless something changes.
Hmm.
And I am now 56 years old. I'm a lot of
Right.
years old. I'm older than you are, Dylan. I know it's hard to believe. So
Jokes on you. I'm 62.
no, you're not. So, but I lived a lot of my life feeling like I was a passenger in my life. And I got to the point where I realized that that's not the kind of life I want to live. And so being a leading voice for me is I want, if I could take people by the lapels and shake them and say, you don't have to live this way. It is so much better on the other side. Uh, Being a leading voice is being the example of what's possible, being the um, maybe inspiration for some people, maybe a roadmap for some people so they know that you don't have to have had this figured out at age 25. You can figure it out now, today, whatever your age is,
Mhm.
but you can start moving towards something that you want and really create a life that's so much better than what you imagine, much certainly better than what you have right now.
And where do you pull your courage from to do that? And the reason I ask is I think there's a lot of people that just heard what you said, and maybe they're watching it on their phone, or they see you on TikTok and they're like, "Yeah," and then they just swipe and they go about their day, right? Like
Right.
they're willing to get behind the message without any action of doing it. Where do you pull your courage from?
Well, the secret is that there's no secret. You just have to do it.
Mm.
I was with my boys at a high adventure camp, and the boys were just doing this is all the boys that were all together. They're jumping off this cliff. It was not a high cliff, it was like 12 feet.
Mhm.
And they're jumping off, swimming around in the lake, running up the rocks and jumping off and swimming, and it looked like they were having a blast. And so I walked over, I had my swimsuit on. I could have gotten in the water if I wanted to. And I walk over to the edge and I look down, and my thought was, it's not that far. I'm not afraid to jump off. I just don't feel like it. I just don't really want to get wet right now.
Mm.
But look at what everybody else is doing. They're playing around, they're having a good time. And I talked myself out of doing something uncomfortable. And I know comfort zone is going to come up at some point in this
Trust me.
conversation.
Yes.
But what struck me in that, and actually it was later than that. I wasn't quite smart enough to figure it out in the moment, but I realized that nothing's going to change if I try to talk myself out of doing something different. And I was right that it was not that high. It was not that uncomfortable. It was not that hard. But the more I found myself talking myself out of it, I really don't want to. It's a little bit chilly. It's going to be uncomfortable. The more that became important. And so what you focus on is going to expand. If you focus on the fear, the discomfort, the newness of the experience, you're going to create more of that, and then um, you could just all it is, you take a step,
Mhm.
take a step.
I was gonna say it's like that's a perfect measuring stick between rationalization and choosing to be comfortable and uncomfort and choosing to be courageous. A perfect measuring stick is jumping in cold water.
Yeah,
Like I don't know, I live on a great lake, and how many people will take out on our boat? It's like, we're jumping in. that they'll just sit there and be like, it's literally this far. It's more of like, oh my gosh, cold water, am I going to love it? You can see
Right.
so many people having fun and how easy it is to just like, I'm not gonna. And we're gonna get into that comfortable, like you said later in this podcast. But let's talk about this broad concept
Okay.
of being stuck, of feeling stuck and getting unstuck. Right? You now have made a platform with it. You now
Mhm.
coach people to
Right.
help them get unstuck in their careers and their lives. But like, where did all of this originate for Ken feeling stuck that eventually leads you to talk about it to the masses?
So it originated. It really has been building for most of my career. Like I said, I have felt like I was in the passenger seat of my life. I drifted in my career, took a job, promoted a little bit. They eliminated the position. I took another job, promoted a little bit. They eliminated the position. I just kind of bounced around to whatever was really what was easy and comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Most recently, I was at FedEx. I was there for 16 years and really enjoyed the job, enjoyed the people that I worked with, enjoyed the function, but there were some things that were not going, and I'll just put it in air quotes, they were not going my way.
Mm-hmm.
I was not getting the promotions that I thought I should get based on my experience and based on my skill set. The boss that got promoted over me, we were peers, we'd been there the same amount of time. It got really frustrating working for him. And I was just tired of living this way. And what the problem that I had, that I think this is what led me through my life, was that I'm at the mercy of somebody else.
Hmm.
I'm waiting for my boss to tell me that it's time for me to promote, or in some cases, they told me it's time to leave because we don't have a position for you anymore. My boss at FedEx was telling me, you're not going to promote until, and I, the shift was, I can take control. I can take responsibility. That's a better word. I can take responsibility for my life. And once I did that and realized I can create the life that I want, the experience that I want, then that's a, if you want to talk about the discomfort zone, that's terrifying
Mm-hmm.
because for 50 plus years, I don't know what I want. I've
Mm-hmm.
only gone through what my dad says I should want, what my mom thinks I want, what my boss thinks I'm capable of, what my wife encourages me. Never in my life, really, did I think about what do I want? And so um, that gets to be a challenge. But once I know what I want, in fact, I was working with a coach and he said, "What do you want?" I said, "I want out. I want out of this job." He said, "Quit."
Because I was going to ask how long, and we're going to come back to the term passenger seat. I think that's huge. How long were you working at FedEx before you came to this realization, if you don't mind me asking?
I was there for 16 years.
I mean,
And part of that journey was I spent a couple of years thinking that the promotion was my next step, the next logical step.
mm-hmm.
And the realization I came to was after I applied, didn't get it, applied, didn't get it several times, and I was looking at the people who got the job, it became clear that what I wanted the job for, which was coaching, mentoring, developing, that's not what the next level up wanted. That's not what they were looking for. So it was a mismatch.
Yeah,
They would have been frustrated with me because I would have insisted on let's make our managers better.
right.
And I would have been frustrated with them because they want somebody who's just going to be the iron fist.
Yeah.
And that wasn't me. And so it was that kind of a shakeup for me personally that I've got to get out.
Do you feel, coming back to the passenger seat, do you feel this is a big reason people tend to get stuck? Like anybody out there, there's a bunch of people watching this that are going to be like, yeah, I've been stuck or I'm currently stuck.
Right.
Do you believe that whole passenger seat mindset is one of the biggest reasons they get stuck?
I can't think of a bigger reason. And it's so if I'm in the passenger seat, that means somebody else is driving my life.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody else is in control. Somebody else is calling the shots. And it could be the boss who's saying, you're not ready yet, or now you're ready, go ahead and apply. It could be your spouse who says, you can do better, or you should be in this role. It could be parents. And it doesn't, the interesting thing is, these people don't even have to be living. It could be a dead relative
And you
who
still
was
have
that.
it stuck in your mind of
Yeah,
like, this is what my mom wanted for me, or I grew up with my grandparents. This is what
right.
they wanted for me, so I'll do that. So I might know the answer here, but to hear it from the horse's mouth,
Thank
beautiful
you.
horse. Uh, why do you feel people unknowingly or knowingly give away their power to other people?
I was working with somebody the other day, and he said that he would be happy if he just scraped by, and but other people in his life don't think that he should have set his sights so low. So problem number one is we don't know what we want, and number two is our identity is shaped by what we think other people think about us. And so if let's just suppose let's do this crazy thought experiment. Let's just suppose that I decide I don't want to be a corporate operations manager. I want to be a life coach. And as I'm starting to pursue that, I love coaching people. I love the breakthroughs that I personally have had,
Mhm.
that I've seen other people have. And so I know I have an aptitude. One of my great gifts is the ability to ask really meaningful questions that get people to think. And so I made a decision, started to shift, and I told my mom. And she said, "Why does everybody want to be a life coach? Why does everybody want a coach? Why does anybody need a coach?"
Mm.
And I was not surprised that any of these questions came up. And so I waited months before I told her that number one, that I was pursuing this. Number two, when I left FedEx, I I was in her house
Mm.
a few days after I quit my job. And it was 3 months after that that I even said anything to her about it because I didn't want that story. I was letting her thoughts about me determine for me what I wanted to pursue. So we're not comfortable declaring what we want. We're letting our identity be shaped by other people. And I think that's one of the huge reasons that we let other people drive our life.
Yeah, it seems like a two-part process. Number one is we're not willing to get uncomfortable enough or take the time needed to know what we want, which
Right.
does shape who we are.
Right.
And if we're not willing to take that time to understand what it is that we want, then we go, okay, well, what do other people think about me? I'll just fall in line with that.
Right.
But then falling in that line not only causes us to go down a path where we're eventually going to be stuck because it's not up to us,
Exactly.
it makes it very difficult to get out of it because now we have this like rigid picture of us that has been shaped over time.
And it's not even true.
Right. And then we die one day with a headstone that says Dylan Barr just scraped by.
Yeah. Or Dylan Barr um, could have been something great.
What was who everyone else thought he was. I feel like
But
anytime I bring things back to like death and it's like, man, that's the legacy I'm leaving for me now having a kid.
right.
Scares the shit out of me, man.
But and it's not even because we're so afraid to have these conversations with people.
Mhm.
We we have an imaginary conversation and it's not even conscious. This happens at a very deep subconscious level. And so I'm not going to tell my mom what I'm up to because I don't want to face the criticism that I expect. And the thing that was surprising as I was going through this certification process, my wife was so proud of me. She was so excited for me moving into something that she saw would really let me come alive. And so she was telling people, "Hey, guess what? Ken's going to be a life coach. Hey, guess what? Ken's learning how to be a life coach." And I cringed every single time because I thought, I'm going to get hate for this. The criticism, all that. And I got none of it. I got 100% support. "Oh, that's cool. Oh, that's amazing. He'll be great." All the support. And in fact, the conversation with my mom ended with it took me 2 days to come up with an answer to why everybody wants to be a coach, but or why anybody needs a coach. And your top performers, Tiger Woods has a coach. Your top performers have a coach because the coach can see things that the top performer even can't see. And so I told my mom, I my job as a coach is to be a mirror. I'm here to show you things that you're not going to catch on your own. And we had a great conversation as she drove me back to the airport. And as she dropped me off, she said, I wish we had started this conversation sooner. And I didn't because I was afraid.
Yeah.
And most of it was imaginary.
And even like you say, the way that you said your mom's response was like, "Who even needs life?" That does seem scary. Like even you
Yeah.
saying that to me, I was like, "Oh, that had to be tough." But being able to sit through it, because then that allows you to find your answer,
Yeah.
right? Even though you didn't fully have the answer to that question going in, someone actually puts you on the spot. You're able to answer it and have more confidence in what you do, and it also brings other people in. I love that. It reminds me of some of the top sales reps I've ever worked with as their manager that has helped them get results. They also had another coach because that
Yeah.
coach could also see something. And the more people can help you see these blind spots for yourself, the
Right.
better. So a lot of this leads to, man, it's like we're letting our control go and we're
Yeah.
choosing to fall in line with what society thinks that we would like.
Yeah.
I had a conversation recently with someone whose husband is now a doctor, um, and I was like, man, he's got to be pumped that he's a doctor now. And she told me, she goes, yeah, a little bit. He's starting to ask if this is what he wants all along. And I'm
Yeah.
like, you gave 8 years of your life or
Right.
more to this.
Exactly.
And then it's like we're in this rut. I hear it from lawyers too. It's like you've dedicated so much time choosing comfort. So I guess my question for you then is whether we're deep in the pits, maybe someone is, 20 years into a job listening to this, or we're new. Maybe there's a college freshman listening to this.
Yeah.
What's the first you think? What's the first step to declaring to getting unstuck or to
Mhm.
avoid being stuck?
Step number one is to recognize that you are in control of your life. You are 100% responsible for your life. And it feels not true because things happen.
Hmm.
Um, it could be, I was driving into work one day and I must have gone through a construction debris field on the street because two of my tires ended up going flat from the time I hit nails to the time I parked in the parking lot. Two tires. And I don't have two spares.
Hmm.
In fact, that car had zero. And so things happen and it feels like, well, I'm just at the mercy of things. But if you realize that I'm in control, I'm responsible for my life. I'm responsible for what happens. It gives you, if nothing else, a mental advantage that I can either let this tank my day or I can decide that this is an adventure. I've never had two flat tires in my life. So I wonder how I'm going to figure this out. And so I had AAA or whatever, they came out, they put my car on the tow bed and we got it fixed so it worked out fine. But that's, I think, for me, that was the secret. And this comes in stages because we still think that somebody else was in charge or in control. I'm still waiting for the boss to tell me that, hey, it's okay for you to apply for the new job,
Mm.
or for my wife to tell me that, yeah, I think you can make this thing work. So we're still waiting for that. But really, the more we realize that we're in charge of our
Hmm.
lives, we are, whether or not we feel like we're the driver in our life, we are the driver. And so I'm going to drive. I'm not going to let Dylan or somebody else decide where we're going to go.
So yeah, because I was about to interrupt right there, and then you just kept
Interrupt.
talking. So no, I didn't because you're in the driver's seat. So I think a big part of it is like stop being in the passenger seat, start being in the driver's seat, and the very first step is take control. You
Yeah.
mentioned a couple other things, even when shitty things happen in your life. There's something I want to challenge you on a little bit there.
Okay.
But before we go into that, step one, knowing that you're in control. Sounds great on paper.
Yeah.
How does someone how do you embed that belief? Like there's no way they're like, "Oh, I watched the Matter of Speaking podcast one time and I'm in control now." So,
I'm in control.
how do you start, like what's the first step to embedding that in your opinion, or what can someone do?
This is funny because I had a client ask me the same question. And I think there are a couple things that can do. Number one, your brain is designed to look for danger. So we have to catch that when it happens. Your brain is designed to look for the world's out to get me or this is bad. So if you have a fundamental belief that everything works out for me, when I get the notice that what's a good example? I don't know. If I get the notification, I was in a meeting last week
Mhm.
and somebody got a text message and just announced that I just made a sale, a $30,000 sale. She's sitting in a class. She made a sale.
Mhm.
Fantastic. And so the mentor at the front of the room said, everything works out for us. And then somebody else said, I just got a text that I've been subpoenaed to testify in federal court next week. And he said, that's fantastic. So what if everything that happens is good? What if there's something good about everything that happens? When my boss at FedEx shifted his perspective of me, and so instead of being his go-to guy, I'm now the guy with no um, ethics, which makes it a really uncomfortable environment. It doesn't matter how hard I work. I'm not going to convince him that I'm a good decision maker, that I'm a quality employee, et cetera, because he believes in his head that whatever Ken does is going to be self-motivated or self-preservation. It's going to be somehow off base. How can that be a good thing? Well, for me, as I was talking to my wife about this is miserable, she her words, we're
Mhm.
spiritual people. She said, "Do you believe that maybe you're taking too long to take action and maybe God is just nudging you by making things a little bit uncomfortable?" And I thought, "Well, yeah, that makes perfect sense."
Hmm.
And so what if everything that happens, the fact that you lost your job, the fact that you split up, the fact that you got rejected from the TEDx stage or whatever it is, what if that's good? And there's something good in there. Um, quick story. It's a much longer story, but our fifth son, 18 years ago, was born emergency C-section after my wife had an eclamptic seizure. She was out driving around, ended up blacking out, hit a house, caused $25,000 damage to the house, broke both of her ankles, needed the jaws of life to get out of the car.
As she
And
was
that was
pregnant.
as she was 8 months pregnant.
Oh my god.
So people hear the story and they think, oh, that's horrible.
That's
No,
what I'm thinking.
absolutely.
Oh, that's what I was thinking
Saved,
though.
that saved her life because number one, she was out. And if she had been home, she would have gone upstairs and felt horrible, had a massive seizure and died. So she's out. She blacked out and hit a house, the one house in the surrounding area that had somebody home who could call 911. The OB at the hospital happened, and I'm using air quotes, happened to be in the emergency room when she showed up and with another patient. So we didn't have to, or they didn't have to wait even 2 minutes for the OB to get down. Everything that played out happened so perfectly, it saved her life. So some people may look at that and say, that's a horrible situation. How could you see the good in that? And I look at it and I say, she's alive today because of that accident. I get emotional about it still because it's so it's a powerful reminder.
Hmm.
And back to your original point, because we're constantly looking for danger, we just need a constant reminder. This is good. I don't know how yet, but this is good.
Mhm.
So what is the blessing in all of this?
The two things that I'm taking out of everything that you said, three, that's wild, man. That's one of the most expensive birthing stories ever. No, but I'm gonna look at the positive like you are. The
Right, but one thing just to point out, you talk about expensive. Insurance covered the damage to the house. Um, And then because of a mess up with the medical insurance, I didn't get my first bill until over a year after he was born.
Hmm.
And my health insurance company said, "Anything past 90 days, I'm not responsible for." I paid 0.
That is wild. Okay, so then there's three good things out of it. Sheep.
At least.
The other two things that I took from it, because the main question being like, how does someone do this, right? Like, how does someone just decide to be like, I'm in control? Two things that you just said in those stories that I'm writing down. Number one, it's like embedding a talk track,
Yeah.
saying it out loud, like, oh yeah, things work out for me. like
Yeah.
saying it, right? Because again, if it's up here, it's going to get lost in all the other thoughts that could be negative. So verbalizing, man, everything works out for me.
Yeah.
And then two, I don't know if you do this or not. It sounds like you for sure did the first one. But two, it's like taking time after these very tough events. Because I follow you on TikTok. You'd say
Mm.
that like having a bad boss, not getting a promotion, all this stuff, that's a blessing.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you just kind of recapped it because it's taking time after these shitty events in your life,
Mhm.
or what the outside world might see as shitty, and either talking them out or noting down why they're actually good. Do you
Yeah.
prefer personally talking them out? Do you prefer writing them down? Like anyone listening here, what do you think's best for them?
Some people are gonna do great with journaling. I
Mhm.
have not been a consistent journaler. I like to talk it out. So either way is gonna be valuable, but, I will tell you, I had a coworker, former coworker who passed away a week ago, and I went to his funeral, and I saw some of the people that I used to work with, and I just had a realization that if I had gotten the promotion that I thought I should get, I thought that was the right track for me, I would have still been there. I would have been working nights. I would have been, it's not good for my physical health to be working those hours, to be stress eating all the time. I would have been miserable because I would not have been able to do the kind of work that I really wanted to do. And so looking at it from the perspective of I now I made a decision, I made a choice, I took control, decided to shift into this new direction, and I'm I'm having the time of my life. It doesn't mean it's easy. It doesn't mean that I don't struggle. It doesn't mean that I never get stuck myself, but my life is so good
Mhm.
because I'm starting to see more and more every day. I can do whatever I want. I can have the kind of life that I want. If I want to have, um, I was out driving the other day and I stopped by my wife's work and she was going for a walk and I stopped by. We walked around the Walmart parking lot. I couldn't do that if I was working
Yeah.
a regular 9 to 5 or 9 to 5 PM.
It just seems like it comes so natural for you to like take these times of reflection. And I think a lot of people listening, it might take time to get there, but also for
Mhm.
you to get to this point, I think it's so important to remind, like, I want you to know I'm saying this as a positive. It also took you 16 years
Yeah,
in a place where you felt stuck. So I think a lot of people, they'll see someone I talk to and they're like, okay, well, he's just naturally positive. No, it's taken years for you to get
right.
here and you decided to do it. Now you have a job that you like you said, it's
Mhm.
hard, but there can also be good. It's a good
Oh,
hard. It's like a
it's
fun hard.
phenomenal. Yeah.
Who is it that tends to come to you for help? Is it just,
Mostly
yeah, is it just people in work or?
no, I had a client who we had such a great conversation because he had something on his mind that had to do with work and something that had to do with his home life, and he said, "Which one do you wanna talk about?" Well, it doesn't matter to me because the common denominator is you, it's your brain, and so if we fix the home stuckness,
Mhm.
it's gonna open up work stuckness and vice versa. So most of the people that I've had, as clients is that I've had interactions with, most of them are men. Most of them tend to be mid-career. I've
Mhm.
had some earlier, I've had some a little bit later, but most of them tend to be mid-career men who are at the point that they realize, "Holy crap, this is my life unless I do something different." And that's the problem is unless you do something different, this is your life.
Mm.
And if you're happy with that, like this guy I told you about, on TikTok, yeah, that's fine. If that's the life you want, fantastic, have the life.
Mhm.
But if you're not getting up excited every day because you can have everything that you wanted, then do something different.
Yeah, like have that mirror. It's like if
Yeah,
you're waking up every day and you're feeling stuck, whether it's midlife crisis or even before it, and you're like, "Holy shit, this is the rest of my life."
yeah,
Like you're saying, kind of have two options: keep going through it,
yeah,
or choose to change. And part of choosing to change is might be finding someone that can be a mirror and help you see things that you're doing that you might not see yourself.
right.
You say TikTok, that's where I follow you.
Uh-huh.
It's fun. It's just I feel like I'm in your house anytime I follow you on TikTok. It's just
Sometimes you
me
are.
hanging out with Ken. How do people find you? Is that the only place, or how do people tend to find Ken Williams?
So I'm on all the socials. The easiest way to just who knows what's gonna happen with really any of the socials,
Yeah.
but the easiest way to just stay in touch with me is my website. And if you go I'm a big believer, new convert to goals. So if you go to my website, which is kenwilliamscoaching.com, it's a simple name, kenwilliamscoaching.com/goals. That will take you to my goal blueprint. I have a different way of looking at goals.
You call them
It's
stupid goals.
they're stupid goals.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I love it.
because smart goals that's incomplete, and we could have a whole long conversation about that. But, kenwilliamscoaching.com/goals will give you that goal blueprint. It's some tactics that will, give you a different way to think about goals that will totally change the way that you approach goals.
Mhm.
And then that way, I send periodic a couple days a week, I'll send an email, just about the things that are making an impact for me. As an example, today I sent out a message about, you don't have to set a long range goal like I'm going to finish the marathon. What if you
Mhm.
just set a short range goal like I'm going to run today?
Mhm.
And it could be to the mailbox, and it could be around the block.
Oh, we go even shorter than that. It's a joke I always make about my dad, but I love him for it. Is he loves checklists because it feels like he's
Uh-huh.
getting things done. He will put on his checklist in the morning, put on shoes, brush
Yeah.
teeth, just because crossing it off is like, I'm amazing.
Yeah. It's a dopamine hit, it's addictive, and it works. So one of the things that I have on my list is, I had referenced TEDx. I'm working on landing a TEDx stage, and I wanna put 2 applications in on a day.
Mhm.
So I'll list it, put in an application, because then I get 2.
Two
Ding, ding.
checks. Now, okay, so kenwilliamscoaching.com/goals. We'll put that in the description below. Is there any other place? Obviously, TikTok, your
Right.
website. You have, it sounds like, a little newsletter that'll go out. Those would be the
Mhm.
main ways, would you say? Or
Those are the main ways.
okay,
Yeah, TikTok is where I'm most active. I do send everything over to Facebook and Instagram.
yeah, Meta,
LinkedIn, people can find me on LinkedIn as well. Um,
awesome.
so, yeah,
We'll
I
we'll
try to be easy to find.
we'll throw that in the description. And while you're down there, anybody, like, subscribe, and I think the biggest thing here is we keep these podcasts short. And if there's ever more you want to talk about, leave a comment. Right, we'll get back to him. Ken will get back to him. We want to hear from y'all. What are you liking? What are you taking away? What still is up in the air for you watching this? Now, we're going to get towards the end of this now. I'm getting ready to go into the uncomfort zone with you, but you're also
Ah,
one of our clients. I'd be remiss if
right.
I didn't say that.
Yeah.
You're in Business Accelerator and Inner Circle
Uh-huh.
through for your business,
Right.
right? Which you say you're loving right now. Awesome.
Yes.
Why did you decide to come in and get help for growing your business online?
So, my answer to that is this TikTok conversation that I had the other day. The guy he's trying to make money in stocks,
Hmm.
and he keeps losing. He's losing, he's losing, he's losing, he's losing. And I just asked him, "Do you have a coach or a mentor?" And he said, "Oh, they want his money." Yeah, you're right. They want money because they can shortcut the learning curve.
Hmm.
So, Business Accelerator shortcut my learning curve. And yes, I invested money to shortcut the learning curve. I could have done it myself, but I guarantee I would not have hit my current sales target, if I just done it by myself, because I still would have been stuck on my my trying to figure out my avatar and my
Hmm.
V1 offer and all this stuff. So, um, I found a program, Business Accelerator, Inner Circle, and also TLA, that has, a way for me to shortcut my learning curve. And if you the simple fact is, Dylan, it doesn't matter what you try to do, you are going to invest in learning anything. You're gonna invest, typically, it's gonna be time or money. If you wanna sit down with YouTube tutorials, you're gonna invest time, and it's not gonna cost you much money. Or if you wanna shortcut the time, you're gonna find a coach or a mentor, somebody who's been there, and they'll walk you through, they'll help you navigate around the landmines, but you're gonna invest money.
Yeah.
So, the decision really is for you to learn what you need to be successful, for someone to be that mirror. It's always great to have a strategic partner, whether that's an accountability partner or a peer, coach, mentor, whatever you wanna call them. That's very helpful because they'll see things that you can't see. But find some way that that you can strategically invest in yourself, whether that's time or money. And it doesn't matter to me whether you invest your time or your money.
Yeah.
Just accept the fact you're going to, and so choose wisely.
Yeah. That's a awesome promo for us. Thank you very much. That's not what I was going for there. I still wanted to get like, what is it about? You've invested in a mirror. It's one of the things I wrote down.
Right.
Find your mirror.
Yeah.
What has been one of the biggest ahas you've had having a coach to help you build your business?
I was sitting in um, well, I'll give you a two-part answer. I was working on my first book, which is this one right here,
Nice.
21 Days to Success Through Networking. And I was talking to a buddy that I was working with, just mentioned it, and he said, I don't, I don't care about business books. And I took the content, self-published it. It was a must. I wish I had a copy of it still. Mustard yellow cover. It was not pretty. And I showed him the kind of finished book, and he took it from me and wouldn't give it back until I finished reading it. And I discovered it doesn't matter who publishes your book. It doesn't matter if it's a traditional publisher or if it's self-published, having that book. So a couple weeks ago, I'm in the Podfest, and somebody says the exact same thing about podcast downloads. It doesn't matter how many downloads. The fact is you can have an impact. And so I'm hearing this and I thought, no way. I met two people, big names that are influencers in different ways. And I'm just a guy. I'm just a guy on TikTok. And I had these two big names on my podcast.
Hmm.
And one of them is, if you've heard of Jack Canfield, who is the chicken soup for the soul guy,
Mm-hmm.
James, the guy that I had on my podcast, James coaches Jack Canfield.
Hmm.
So this is not a low level guy. So one of the things that I've gained is the box that I thought was reality doesn't exist. There is no box. I've got a buddy that talks about the box that we all live in a box. We think we know what's true, and we create a story to validate what's true. There's no way I'll get James on my podcast because he's a celebrity. He was on Secret Millionaire.
Hmm.
But when I asked him, and actually he volunteered, I didn't even have to ask him. It blew my mind that I'm missing out on opportunities simply because I'm not even aware that the potential exists. And that's one of the things that BAIC has helped me see. It's not just, oh, maybe I'll get on a TEDx stage. It's no, I am going to land a TEDx stage. I have a system, I have support. It's going to happen.
Hmm. I love that. And then again, it gives you the confidence as you go through it. Final three questions, Ken. And I'm going to, my challenge is succinct as possible with this as
All
we
right.
finish up, like rapid fire. I call it the uncomfort zone,
Okay.
brought to you by Leader. Question number one. I'm not talking about the uncomfort zone to work with us. I'm talking about you got into an uncomfort zone when you decided to get out of the passenger seat and into the driver's seat and do what you love to do. Why did you decide to get outside of your own comfort zone?
Because I hated the idea of living the life that the path that I was on. I couldn't stand that idea.
Okay, well, let me challenge you then. So, why do you think other people don't get outside their comfort zone with the things that they care about? It's like obviously we'll try new foods and shit like that, but they don't get outside their comfort zone for what it is that they love. Why not? Like they hit that. What you're saying is they hit that and they're like, "Oh, this life sucks," but it is. Like, why do you think they stay in the comfort zone there?
Because they don't know that anything else is possible.
All right, genius. So what's the first step?
The first step is get really honest with yourself. What do you want? I was talking to my brother earlier today, and he said, I know what my end goal is. I just don't know what steps to get there. Okay, forget about the steps. What do you want? And if you don't know what you want, start there.
Hmm.
If you know what you want, then the question is, what or who is going to help me get there. And if it's YouTube, great. If it's a coach, great. If it's a book, great. But you've got to start with what you want.
Hmm. And again, I'm looking down for anyone that's watching this on YouTube. It's never because I'm ignoring people. I take notes every podcast. Ken, this was a fun one. It's fun to mess with you. It's fun to challenge you. I love the answers that you give. I really appreciate it. So anybody out here, thank you so much for staying to the end. It has been another great podcast. If you did like it, make sure you like and subscribe below so we can get this message out to people that need to hear it. And if you want that recap of the biggest takeaways for me from today's podcast, number one, knowing that if nothing changes, nothing changes. As simple as that. I wrote down, jump in the cold water because you're gonna have fun. Stop giving others the control. Stop being in the passenger seat. And to get in the driver's seat, some things to do: create a talk track and give yourself time to connect the dots looking backwards, as Steve Jobs would say. After these tough events, look back at why it was a good thing. Create that talk track, consistently look back on these tough parts of your life as why they're a blessing. Choose your hard because it's going to be hard regardless, and then choose why the hard that you chose is a good thing. Find your mirror, right? Because what you said is we have to get very clear at what we want. And if we don't know, our job is to take some time, write it down, be wrong, sit with it, forget about the steps, just sit with what it is that you want. And once you find it, ask yourself who or what is going to help get you there. Know that you're going to give time or money regardless for them, but find your mirror. Find someone that can see what you're doing and help you see the blind spots. Uh, Ken does that for anyone that's curious. If you like his personality, if he's not super intimidating, the guy made sales on TikTok. He had one person reach out. He's like, I actually chose to work with you because you didn't have millions of views. You seemed approachable. Ken, you're such a fun, easy guy to hang with, and you help a bunch of people. We appreciate having you on the podcast. For everybody else, thank you so much. We will see you next week on a Matter of Speaking podcast. Ken William, thanks for being on today.
Thanks for having me.